Hi everyone, in this video, let's look at the history behind a map of self-care and the foundation of self-care, which is self-love, self-acceptance, and self-awareness. I have been going through a map of self-care over the last 1 year, and I'm taking this opportunity to revisit the entire map of self care over the next few weeks. Let's look at the map of self care and how the whole thing came to be. I just wanted to share a little bit of background information, a little bit of history as to how this map of self care came to be. Last year, when the COVID situation came about, I was in Prague and we were just about to complete my husband's sabbatical when this entire COVID situation forced us to be just staying put within our Airbnb in Prague. And very soon we had to cut the whole thing short and find our way to Singapore. And the situation was very uncertain all over the world. And at that time, I had no social media presence anywhere for my work. It was just my private Facebook group account. And these ideas of how I wanted to talk about COVID, it just kept coming to me. And it was such an insistent messaging that was coming from within that I spent the entire plane journey from Prague to Singapore planning the what I wanted to say to everybody, my family, my friends, and all the people that I knew, my clients. And that's how the first thing that I did on social media as part of my work was the 28 days immersion. And I'll just share that with you. So this was what I had, a 28-day immersion, moving from outer chaos to inner balance. And as part of this was the content was organized over 4 weeks. Week one, making sense of our inner chaos and our inner strength. I think many people, most of us were in that state of confusion and even fear, as this was the first time we were getting exposed to such a big pandemic. And the first week was all about making sense of our inner chaos and our inner strength. And the second week was about moving towards inner balance. And once we were able to look at our own inner balance, that the next week, the third week, was about moving from the micro. This is my situation, my family, my country. Can I zoom out of this whole thing and see the bigger picture? What is happening to the entire all the countries? What is happening to the world? What is happening to other beings, ecosystems? How are they responding or reacting to this pandemic? So week three was micro to macro, and finally the last week, week four, was moving forward. So all of this is there. This is more or less part of everybody's life at this point in time. How do I move forward? What are the lessons that I can take and move forward? And one of the days in week four, moving forward, was a map of self care. Because I felt at that point in time that self care was the only way that's going to equip us with moving forward as we go through the pandemic and taking the lessons from the pandemic. We are still in the pandemic 1 year later. Taking the lessons from the pandemic, I feel the one thing COVID has taught us is the importance of self care. So that's how a map of self care came to be. Once I had completed the 28 days immersion, then I sort of put my mind together and saw what I needed to do. And that's how a map of self care came to be. We will go through the foundation of the map of self care today, and progressively, different dimensions of the map of self care will be covered over the next few weeks. And following that, the plan is to say, okay, this is the map. What do I do with this map? And when we look at self care, I think most of us understand self care as things that we need to do for ourselves. If I need something at this point in time, that's what I need to do. If I need rest, I take rest. If I need exercise, I do exercise. I need to take care of my body. I need to take care of my um, ability to create, and so on. That's how we understand self care. What I wanted to talk about with this map is that there is much more to self care than the things that we often associate with self care. And that's how the five dimensions have come to be. The five dimensions are the physical, the energetic, the emotional, the intellectual, and the spiritual. And for us, depending on where we are or what is happening in our life, some dimension may be more meaningful than others. We may be very strong, maybe in taking care of the physical body, but we may not be that comfortable taking care of our spiritual life. And spiritual life is something that everybody has access to, regardless of what we believe in. So, when we look at self care in this way, as to different aspects come into prominence at different times in our life, and at different and for different people, different dimensions make much more sense. Then using this map becomes very easy, because I can start with a dimension that I am most comfortable in, work my way through that, and use that comfort level of that dimension. So if I am comfortable taking care of myself physically, I am taking regular movement breaks, I'm having good sleep, good rest, I'm taking care of my nutrition. That is my comfort level. I use this comfort level to draw in other segments so that I'm able to take care of my emotional self, take care of my intellectual self, take care of my spiritual self. And when we look at it this way, then it becomes easier to take care of ourselves. I have covered, I think, almost 50 different topics on all the five different dimensions. And it is really impossible for any person to take care of ourselves consistently on all these 50 different ways in which we can take care of ourselves. So the idea is not to overwhelm ourselves and saying, I have not done this, I have not done this. The idea is to say, I have so many things, so many different ways in which I can take care of myself. Let me look and see what is most important right now for me. And that is the idea behind having so many different dimensions in a map of self-care. So today, let me look at the foundation of self-care. When you look at the foundation of self-care, we realize that the foundation starts with self-love and acceptance. And when we look at self love and acceptance, the foundation then goes on to self awareness. So this is how it is working. We start with self love and acceptance, and then we move on to self awareness. Most of us, we start with self awareness and say, oh, I need to do this. I need to take care of myself. I need to love myself. I need to accept myself. It is coming from a space of awareness. And I would like to say, start with self love and acceptance rather than awareness. And we'll go on to why this positioning of awareness after self love and acceptance in a short while. So let's go on to self love. For those of you who are here live, if you would like to comment and share with all of us, what is it that you like about yourself? What is it that you love about yourself? Self love. And while I'm waiting for people to type in, for me, self love uh, is about understanding what I'm doing at this point in time. And there are many, many, many things that I love about myself, and I'm not feeling shy to share that. One of the things that I love about myself is this insatiable desire to learn more and this curiosity that goes with it as well. It's almost like a childlike curiosity to see, oh, how does this fit in with that? How does this go with that? So, all the different topics and subjects that I am interested in, I try to see how they can work together. So, that's one thing that I really love about myself. I would really appreciate if you can share what is it that you love about yourself. Our ability to love ourselves dictates how we love others. The more I'm able to love myself, the more I'm able to love others. And the more I love myself, the more I'm able to receive and accept love from others. So, the root of all self care is self love. And I would also like to say that anything that I do for self care is an act of self love. So self love becomes very, very crucial to this entire process of self care. And I think at no time in history has that been most evident than during this pandemic. So looking at ourselves and saying, I love myself, is a beautiful way of taking care of ourselves. Even if I do nothing else other than loving myself, that is enough of self care as far as I'm concerned. And yesterday, I was watching something on Netflix and I was looking at the things that is presented to me through Netflix suggested. And I think this is true for all platforms, whether it's YouTube or whether it's Facebook as well. Uh, whatever we watch, there is a artificial intelligence there, a machine learning somewhere that says, okay, this person likes to watch this kind of topics, this kind of genre, and let me suggest more of that to this person. So if I have been watching, I some time back I watched this series called Heartland because I was really drawn to animals and the way they portrayed horses in that series. So after I watched some episodes from that, then I found that my account in Netflix was showing me more and more animal series and animal movies. So even in Netflix, even in YouTube, even in many different areas of our life, we know that whatever it is we express as something I'm interested in, that particular platform shows me more of that. So, extrapolating that idea to the universe, if I am going to love myself, then the universe is going to show me more things that I can love about myself. That's how it works. And it's such a beautiful way of understanding. We talk about law of attraction, we talk about vibration, we talk about many different things. But actually, it's just this: what energy I put out or put in this case, loving myself, I get to see more of that in my world. Self love allows me to harness this power of finding more things that I have that I can love about myself. And when we start from that platform and then we go on to self acceptance, which is the next step in the foundation, um, if you look at self acceptance, one can say is nothing but self love. I mean, if I don't love myself, how can I accept myself? But I decided to specifically say self acceptance as something different from self love because most of us struggle with acceptance. It's very difficult for us to accept ourselves. It is easier in many cases to accept others, but it's very difficult for many people to accept all parts of ourselves, the good, the bad, the ugly. It's very, very difficult for us to accept all parts of ourselves. And that's why self acceptance becomes very, very crucial. Again, if I am struggling to accept somebody, something about somebody, then chances are there is something similar within me that I'm struggling to accept. And instead of spending time within me and evaluating, finding what it is about me that I am struggling to accept, it is easier for most of us to say the other person is wrong. I start judging the other person. I start saying, oh, they're always like this. This is how it is. This is how it is. So conflicts are good opportunities, actually, really good opportunities to say, if there is a conflict somewhere, then chances are very likely that there is something within me that I have not acknowledged and accepted, and obviously not loved as well. And most of us are not even aware of it. It's just happening under the radar. How can that person's action be anything like what I am? That person is behaving in such a horrible way. I am totally not like that. So, externally, it may be true that the actions are different, but when we sit with it for a period of time, then we will start realizing that yes, there is something similar within me that I am not acknowledging, I'm not accepting, I'm not loving. And when I am able to keep going within for these treasures of non acceptance, non judgment, things that I'm not able to love about myself, and I start fixing that, I start working on that. That is inner work. When I'm able to do that, then it becomes easier for me to accept others. So there is this thing about loving others unconditionally. Loving others unconditionally only happens if I'm able to love myself unconditionally. And that's why self love and acceptance have been put together as a part of the foundation of self care, a map of self care. And once I'm able to do self love and acceptance, then is the time for self awareness. Self awareness is very easy for some, especially those of us that really judge ourselves and say, I need to be perfect. I need to do this perfectly. I'm not able to do this. I'm not able to do that. All those different voices of judgment that we have on ourselves is probably because I'm very, very, very aware of what I am thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm doing, what I'm experiencing in my body. When I am that aware of myself and I don't have the foundation of self love and acceptance, then it becomes judgment. Then it becomes perfectionism. Then it becomes nitpicking. You're not doing this right. You're not doing that right. So any form of self awareness, any exercises that we do to increase our self awareness, if that is not preceded by self love and acceptance, then that awareness can be actually very painful. So that is why in this map, I've put the self awareness as the next level, not the first level. Starting with self love and acceptance makes a lot more sense than starting with self awareness. And self awareness is something, awareness on any level is something that takes time. And very often, we are not aware of certain things. We don't want to be aware of certain things because it is too painful for us to understand, believe about ourselves. And that's why awareness becomes much more effective when I already am practicing self love and acceptance. So that's why the foundation is built in this way. And I'm going to share with you how the map works. So, self love is taking care of myself because I matter. That's what self love is all about. And accepting all parts of ourselves is self acceptance. And Self love awareness, like I said, without self love and acceptance is very, very uncomfortable. So always start with self love, self acceptance, and then move on to self awareness. So I want to show you the map as it is: self love, acceptance, going on to self awareness, and then using this foundation for every dimension of self care. So these three, the foundation of self love, acceptance, and awareness, applies to every dimension of self care, starting with the physical. The physical is the easiest for us to understand. So, if I am looking at self love and acceptance when it relates to my physical body, it will include things like my weight, my size, or things that I don't like about myself can all be shifted to things that I accept about myself and then allow about myself. And working that way to take care of ourselves, it becomes easier. Another example: if I have aches and pains or discomfort in certain part of the body, let's start with my tummy. So COVID, staying home, obviously I've put on some weight. My tummy is sometimes bigger than what I need to be. And if I am already coming from a space of I don't accept this, then it becomes very painful if I go and look at myself in the mirror and say, oh, look at that, the tummy is bigger. But if I'm able to accept and love all parts of myself, then looking in the mirror is not a problem. I may just joke about it and say, oh, there, I need to work on that. But it's coming from a space of acceptance rather than from a space of rejection. So, self love, acceptance, and awareness can go to looking after ourselves physically. And when we go on to the energetic aspects, there are many different ways in which we can work with our energy body, with our energy tools as well. What I want to focus on is the energy of spaces and the energy of people. And that's the easiest to understand. If I go into a particular space and I find that the environment in that space is not conducive, I feel uncomfortable, then an act of self love and acceptance would be to leave that space. If I can, if I'm strong enough, I can change that space and make it more conducive to myself. But if I'm not strong enough at this point in time to make that change to an environment, then it may be easier for me, an act of self love and acceptance, to leave that space, if not permanently, at least for periods of time, so that I can recoup my energy, I can build my strength, and then come back with fresh insight, fresh perspectives. So, energetic space, again, taking care of our energy needs, is built on a foundation of self love, acceptance, and awareness. And it goes on to emotional self as well, taking care of our emotional needs, again built on this foundation of self love, acceptance. And it's very, very easy for us to fall into this turmoil of my own emotions. So, for example, if I am angry at someone or at some situation, anger is normal. Staying angry for long periods of time is not. So, when I realize I am angry for whatever reason, either at a person or at a situation or at myself for a period of time, then taking time out to understand what is the message that is coming from this anger, working on that through the lens of self-love, acceptance, and awareness, to see what are the things that I can do about this. Then immediately the anger starts fading away, because it came with a message, the message of an unfulfilled need, that I need to take care of myself in this particular way. And when I'm able to heed that information, then the focus shifts to the solution rather than the problem. In my case, the problem can be my being angry. I don't want to be angry. This is not the person I am. And the more I try to resist that anger, the longer it's going to stay with me, the stronger it's going to become. But if I'm able to accept, say, yeah, it's okay for me to be angry. Let me see, why am I angry in this situation? What is the unfulfilled need? What is it about this situation that I need to change or shift? And when I start asking myself those questions from this lens of self love and acceptance and awareness as well, then my attention shifts to the solution. Anger is no longer a problem. It's no longer a problem. It goes away quite easily. Intellectually, again, we will be looking at a whole list of needs that we have, that we can take care of ourselves in different ways. And lastly, spirituality. So our spiritual needs as well can be addressed through the lens of self-love, acceptance, and awareness. So that's all I had for this session. Next week, we will be looking at our physical needs. When we covered the map of self care, we covered the topics in different sequence. We started with emotional, then we went to intellectual, energetic, spiritual, and then finally physical. But when we are tracing it now, revisiting it now, we are going to go in sequence, and that is physical needs, and the following week will be our energetic needs, then emotional, intellectual, and finally our spiritual needs. So, this is the sequence I have in mind. And do share with me if there is anything specific that you would like me to talk about over the next 5 weeks and over these dimensions as well. Thank you all for joining me. Those in the group, which is a map of self care, I have a private group. Those in the group, I will be doing live on the same topic with some tools and exercises that you could use for self love, acceptance, and awareness. Thank you. Bye bye. Namaste.